I'm a professor of entrepreneurial behavior at Technical University of Munich, and currently I'm visiting Lazaridis Institute at Wilfrid Laurier University. I'm interested in the people side of entrepreneurship because by training I'm a psychologist, so I've always been very curious about how people think, how they feel, why they act. And studying these phenomena in an entrepreneurial context is particularly exciting because the whole venture starts in the head of an entrepreneur or an entrepreneurial team. And so I'm really fascinated in understanding how they get ideas from their head out into the market. We did a project in which we wanted to understand how a company can prepare for scaling, and more specifically, how the roles of founders and employees will develop in this preparation process. So what we actually did in this project, we had the chance to follow one AI-based startup for 1.5 years. Following meant that one of our co-authors spent quite a lot of time there as her part-time job as an HR assistant. She so really experienced all the changes within the startup, but also she had first-hand experience of the startup's culture and how this helped or facilitated the scaling process. So in this study, we wanted to understand how founder and employee roles change over time in this preparation process for scaling. So what we found was that there were two phases. The first phase, probably not too surprising, was very much driven by the founders. So the founders started with a very broad role set. And they were kind of these jack-of-all-trades that we keep talking about. And then in the first phase, they started delegating aspects of their roles to the employees. But then we also observed the second phase. And the second phase we called was an interaction-based phase, in which it was not just founders delegating, but it was also employees who crafted their own roles. So we saw that it was employees who were particularly a particular good fit to the values of the founders, and then founders tolerated this process, that they came up with their own ideas how their roles could look like. Also, we found that only employees who felt psychologically safe enough, they only would be the ones who engaged in this role crafting. There were also other processes and mechanisms that we observed. So there were employees who seemed to become more like founders. So for example, with respect to the more formal roles that they had in the venture, some of them became something that we called the surrogate founders. So they took on roles that the founders had previously, for example, in the daily management. So one of the employees, for example, became the lead of the sales team. But they could also take on informal roles that the founders had previously. So for example, they could become builders of culture within the startup, and one of the employees, for example, suggested a new onboarding process that then would also be in line with the company's culture and help new venture employees then also to be aligned with the values of the venture. So it was not just founders basically passing on tasks, but also really from bottom up employees supporting the process. I think that our study has several implications for founders and executives who want to scale their business. First of all, they really have to become aware of the important role of employees. And they certainly will be aware of the fact that you can ask employees to take on some of the tasks that you cannot do anymore. But this is not all. Employees also, in particular the highly talented employees, will want to shape their own roles. And then as a founder, you have to think about which type of role crafting behavior do you want to invite. Typically, these might be employees who share the values that you have for the company. But then also, you really have to create a psychologically safe environment that will then allow the employees to get active. So what founders, what executives should do is to create an atmosphere that is open, where you encourage somebody else's suggestions, and also where you show high levels of trust in your employees. So you should give them the feeling that you really care for their opinion, and you actually should do that so that it's an actual safe environment for them to make some suggestions and also to experiment with their own roles in the venture.